Hello, this is Jamie Magrich. Welcome to Jamie's Craft Table. Today I want to show you how I made this card. And I'm going to change up the sentiment, but let's get started. So I need a scrap of Whisper White. I have a 2 1/4 inch circle of Whisper White. I have a 2 1/2 inch strip. It's 5 1/2 inches long. Doesn't really matter the length. This is Seaside spray. I have a 4 1/8 by 5 3/8 inch piece of Whisper White, and I have a piece of Pacific Point, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and a card base, which is thick, 5 1/2 by 8 1/2, scored and folded at 4 1/4. I'm going to go ahead and mount this right to my card front just to get it one less piece out of the way. Let me see if I can find a glue. Well, let's just use this. And this is probably almost empty too, so. And it is the same size as the front of my card. It should be. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put that aside. I'll place this piece aside for a minute, and let's bring in my Stampin' Pierce mat. Ah, here it is. Let's do the sentiment piece first. Okay, so I'm going to bring in the sentiment, and I forgot to show you the stamps I'm using, I'm sorry. Campology, I'm using this stamp here from Campology. I'm using Rustic Retreat, I'm using this sentiment. And then this is a paper pumpkin, Winter Woods, October 2019. And no, I'm using this one. I'm using Winter Gifts, November 2019. There's 3 little snowflake stamp. I'm using that one. And then I'm using this set of dies. I'm using Christmas Layers dies. I've already cut it out. I do need to trim it apart, and that's what this little scrap would have been for. I used this die here. Okay. And I'm using Tasteful Textures and this is the, now I've totally blanked. Because I'm on the camera, of course. When I'm trying to think of the name, I can't. Okay. Let me pause you, I'll be right back. Okay, I found it. It's on page 185. It is the Subtless 3D embossing folder. Okay. And this is the old one, but it's the same. Okay, and I'm going to be using my Stamparatus because I'm going to be stamping on 2 sheets of paper, and I want to make sure that they line up. Okay, so let's stamp this. I'm going to stamp the sentiment with Memento. Right smack in the middle. Perfect. I love that stamp. Alright, then I'm going to take these little snowflakes, and I need a piece of scratch paper. Oh, everything's attached. And I'm going to use makeup brushes just because that's what I like to use. And open this up. This is Pacific Point, and I'm going to take those little snowflakes I'm going to stamp them a couple times on here. And I'm going to take one of these brushes and I'm just going to put a little bit of ink around the edges. This would probably be a good one for your sponge daubers as well. You could use those. That looks pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to put that aside. Now I'm going to move this out of the way. I'm going to bring in my Stamparatus. And this is just in there so I don't get ink all over my piece. But the first thing I'm going to do is bring in the white piece. I'm going to set it in there. And I have this corner thing here. It is from Misty, My Sweet Petunia. I had just put tape on there, which worked well for a long time. This just makes it a little bit more firm. It's like it stays where it is. I'm looking for my magnet. It should be on the back here. Okay, so I'm going to put that in that corner. I'm going to put my magnet on it over here. I'm going to ink this up with black ink. Make sure it's where you want it. Oh, this isn't in the right position. That's not good. I thought it was. There we go. Stamp it down. It's very nice. So I'm going to move that out of the way. Bring it back in because I'm going to use it as a placeholder. I'm going to take this one right over the top of it. Just figure out where you want it. Basically, we're going to tear it, so I'm going to hold it with my magnet so it doesn't move, and I'm going to ink on top of that. And this is the Seaside spray. Yes, Seaside spray. Okay, so we're going to ink that. I'm going to ink it again. It's a little bit light. I want it to be a little darker on this layer. And that's why I'm using this Stamparatus. Oh, another hair. Awesome. Okay. So we're done with this. I'll put this back in there. It's just to keep my that clean. Alright, so we're done with the Stamparatus. We're done with the black ink. Now we're going to bring this piece in. And what I'm going to do is tear on the edges. I want to tear towards me so that I get that fuzzy edge. So this part, I'm going to turn it. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Okay, I'm going to do the bottom. And then across the top. Okay, so I have something that looks like that. Okay, now I'm going to come in with that same brush and the Pacific Point ink, and I'm going to ink around the edges. I want to keep this center here the lighter blue, so I want to try to just ink around the edge. I might not use the Bermuda Bay. Yeah, like that. Okay. Now if you want to add a little bit more of the turquoisey color, you can add a little of the Bermuda Bay. I'll go ahead and add a little bit. I don't want it quite as turquoisey as the other one. Okay. Close this up. Clean off my desk. Just use a little bit of my stamp cleaner. Alright, I'm going to come in with that little stamp of the snowflakes again. I'm going to add a few of those. I don't want too many, because I find it distracting. I want a couple snowflakes. Maybe one more. Let's see. Alright, we'll leave it at that. Okay. Now, we're going to adhere this to this white piece. You want to try and match up the trees, if you can, a little bit. Okay. Alright, now we're going to bring in that embossing folder. And we're going to put it through the die cutting embossing machine with the subtless embossing folder. And I will be right back. Okay, I'm back. I'm not sure you're even going to be able to see the texture on there, but it has a nice texture. This is going to get adhered to the front of our card. We might need a little bit extra adhesive because it is embossed. There's not going to be much of a border because this is just a 1/16 of an inch smaller. So there's going to just be that tiniest little border. Okay. Now we're going to add the white spots, or the snow, and what I used is I have PH Martin pen white. You can use the white re-inker. You can use a white acrylic paint, whatever you'd like to use. I chose to use this. And I'm gonna bring in, I forgot, I'm gonna bring in a water brush. Okay, this has a little squeeze thing on it. You don't really need much. I'm just gonna put a little drop onto my block. I'm gonna add a little bit of water to it. And then I'm just gonna flick it. There's that white shimmer that would work really pretty with this. And then I just took my paintbrush and just did a little bit of white down here. So it looked like there was snow down there. Okay. Clean this up. Alright, let's set that aside to dry a minute. I've got the little splatters all over my desk. All over the place. That's alright. It'll clean up with water. Hopefully I don't have splatters on my camera. Alright, I'll set that aside. I'll clean it later. Okay, now, where did I put my snowflakes? I already cut them. Oh, I look like I'm not organized. And I had everything so organized. Okay, I'll be right back. I found them. They were on here with this paper over it. Alright, so what we're going to do is bring in our snips. Where are they? Oh, my paper fell off of there. That's alright. And we're going to do a little trimming. We're going to trim here. You'll see there's a large snowflake with two small ones that sort of match. There's a medium-sized one, and then a little bit smaller than that, and then another couple small snowflakes. So we're going to keep the large one and one of these small ones together. So we're going to cut this one off here. Go over here. We're going to cut this one off here. We're going to trim this one off here. And then this little snowflake here needs to come off. Okay, so right now we have that. And then we're going to cut this snowflake off of this bunch. Just tidy this up just a tiny bit. Okay, so that's what we have right now. So we're going to bring this back in. And our sentiment, we're going to bring in some dimensionals and put dimensionals on the back. Place our sentiment where we want it. I want it right there. Make sure it's straight. As straight as you can. The words. Okay. And this large one. Oh, I didn't need to take that one off. It's going to go right there. bring in my wet glue? Oh yeah, I did. It goes this way. And put a little bit of glue on the back of it. 1,000 these days. Basically, I put a little glue there. It was too much, so I'm just using the nozzle of the bottle to pick it up and place it where I really want it. Okay, so I'm going to put this one here. A little tiny one will go here. The one with 3. It's going to go over here. And this other one will go up here. Okay, now on this one, I use the rhinestones. I think on this one I'm going to try and use the holiday rhinestones. I'm going to use these blue ones. Let's see how that works. And then I'm going to put a big one in that one. Now let's put the big one here. Middle size one in that one. And the middle size one over here somewhere. One there. And then the little ones inside the rest of those. There we go. There's a card we just made together. And here's the card I did previously. I used more of the Bermuda Bay, so this is more, and I must have torn it down a little bit more, but, and how I came up with this, I was casing my own card. This is a card I did a few years ago, last year, year before, but this is ink smushed from the block, so I was trying to come up with an alternative, a little bit less messy way to do it. This is probably in much less steps, but this is a nice fun approach. Well, thanks for joining me at Jamie's Craft Table. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope you can find a little bit of time to play with some stamps, ink, and paper.